Okay, everybody.
You turned it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, we were just playing some bikini kill there. Something was bringing me back to like the old days. You didn't even laugh. I might bring up the Indigo Girls next. We're doing so well.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be moving right along to Rwanda, and Denmark has extradited a genocide suspect to Rwanda, according to the authorities in the African nation. Rwandan prosecutors accuse Wenceslas Sagirazizu of inciting violence during the 1994 genocide. He is alleged to have led a pro-Hutu militia in the northwest of the country that targeted ethnic Tutsis during the 100-day genocide. He's lived in Denmark since 2001 and has been fighting against his extradition through the courts. Okay, so this is interesting, because one of the issues with they have set up reconciliation courts in Rwanda. Okay, because this means that he's not being sent to the International Criminal Court, so he should be dealt with in Rwanda. And so, speaking of the Rwandan government, we've talked before about Diane Wagara, who was accused of inciting insurrection and forging documents. And this was, basically she criticized President Kagame. But Diane Wagare and her mother, Adeline, hugged supporters as cheers broke out in the packed courtroom in the capital, Kigali, while the verdict was read out. A 3-judge panel described the charges as baseless. I follow Ms. Wagara on Twitter. She is pretty fucking brave, and she is continuing to do what she does. And hey, hello, hi Brenda. Okay, and in Abuja, Nigeria, there's supposed to be general election. As Nigeria prepares for general elections in February, a series of attacks by Boko Haram have focused attention on the security situation in the country. And with an escalation of attacks in recent months, the Nigerian government's claim of victory against Boko Haram appear premature, which is unfortunately that's possibly true, because there's still been quite a lot of violence there. And again, I mean, it's another country with a huge youth population that doesn't feel represented, and problems with unemployment. And so we're going to be following the Nigeria election. We'll be following that. And in South Sudan, they have just started to try and pump oil, which they haven't been able to do in about the past 5 years, since their civil war has been going on, but they don't have the infrastructure. So that means that they're needing to get Sudan to help them with that, and Sudan is taking a pretty hefty portion of it. Yeah. So that's a problem right there. And okay. So that's kind of what I have over there on that continent. I've been reading. Okay, one of the things that I've been thinking about is regulations. Okay, very, very exciting. And how that works legally, and sort of like the pros and cons of regulation and government interference, and what that means. And I've been reading about Frances Perkins, who was the first woman cabinet member. She was Secretary of Labor under Franklin Roosevelt, and she had worked for Roosevelt while he was governor of New York, and really from as the beginning of her life, since she was in college, she was trying to improve working conditions, and that was when she was very young. And so when she became the Secretary of Labor, her goals were to try and prevent child labor, to try and stop child labor entirely, and to make a 40-hour work week, and to promote collective bargaining. And one of the things that's interesting about the 1930s, about that era during the Depression, was there was real xenophobia as there is now, and there was the government was trying, or there were people that were trying. The economy was bad. Well, obviously it was the Depression, and the Department of Immigration was part of the Department of Labor, which was kind of strange to me, but that's how they did it. And so members of the Labor Department would go around and bribe people and intimidate people, and because of their citizenship status. So they were trying to do that, or there was an attempt to try and do that, along with trying to keep the U.S. out of World War II. And so it's just kind of, when we talk about how bad things are now, things are bad, but okay, who are you asking? Okay, I feel like, it's one of the things that's kind of fascinating and compelling to me about the 1930s, is because there was the Depression and there was Jim Crow. So, okay, when we're talking about things being bad, we need to look at everybody, at the whole world. So, there was that, and then there was the fear. So people were afraid, and there was against xenophobia. People were really trying to people were insular. People were trying to stick together and be like, we don't want to have anything to do with the rest of the world, and people are coming into this country and taking our jobs. Okay, does this start to sound sort of familiar there? So it's interesting, and I don't know, and so that was, and one of the things that I think is really sort of perplexing and strange. It's like, okay, why is it that conservatives always want to try to like capitalize on lack of regulations, and like, why is it that, is it always all bad? Okay, like, how can this, because I just don't view things as good or bad. And so like now we're looking at environmental regulations being taken away, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's, and again, okay, going back to bullying, I just feel like it's always, laws are good. Laws are good to prevent people from doing things, I think, but I don't think laws work very well to try and get people to do things. Laws are to get you to not do things. So, I don't know. I mean, I just really hope that I think that it would be good to try and find ways to be more clever and creative and inventive about it, and try and do things with incentives, to try and make it okay, how do we make people feel like it's worth their while to have these regulations? And so I was just so I don't know, I'm not too sure where I'm going with that, but that, I mean, because we've talked before about the interstate commerce clause, and how because that's something that we're going to be looking at. When we bring the film, we don't have to ride Jim Crow, and that was the first legal case to try and combat segregation. It was a legal case to challenge Jim Crow seating in cross-country bus trips, and they said, and the NAACP won a legal case, and they claimed that it was an undue burden because of something called the Interstate Commerce Clause, and it meant that it was too much of a strain. It was an imposition on business to have all these different rules from state to state, instead of that didn't make sense. That imposed an undue burden. And so that's how you do something legally. You start really small and focused, because what they did, there's some like, oh no, we're not talking about like segregation and racism and Jim Crow and all of that. We're talking about an undue burden on businesses. So I mean, that was a case where over-regulation, in a way, now, and we can keep talking about this, was sort of used on the right side. That that businesses shouldn't need to change, that if they were trying to travel cross country, they shouldn't need to change and adapt to the laws in each state. So that was, I mean, that was after World War II. So that's really very different than the 30s, when Francis Perkins was trying to make things more just and equitable. And when she joined the Department of Labor, there was a big section of it that there was a whole group that were basically just going around harassing immigrants as part of the Department of Labor. So yeah, nice. So So she got rid of them, and that's she was very but so they needed to try and work with businesses and say try to get across ways that no, there's other ways to get rich besides having 10-year-olds work your industrial machines.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. And another thing that was happening during that time was attempts to regulate utilities, attempts to regulate dams and power and all of that, because it had just been a free for all where the rich people could just get in and take over public utilities and charge people whatever they wanted to. And a Southern congressman, Sam Rayburn, was actually instrumental in regulating that and trying to make it more fair, but because he was from the South, he didn't really want his name attached to that, right, because people would be like, we don't like those regulations. Right. So I don't know. So going back to the tariffs and regulations and all. The question is, a lot of these people voted for Trump, and now, okay, so this was something. One of the things that Trump has tried to do is get a subsidy for them. Okay, and these are the people that supposedly don't like government subsidies. It's okay.
I like it now, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't like subsidies till I'm getting something, but I don't know. I mean, that's just so complicated. I don't really have a set opinion about it. I just feel like, okay, it seems to me that a lot of people, because it doesn't. I just don't feel like it affects me. I know it does, but it's economics, but I don't know. I just don't know what I think. I just feel like it's something which a lot of people. Okay, if people feel like something isn't working for them, let's try and figure out why.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. And wow. See, another thing I wish they'd do that they did during the Depression was the government started hired people to build roads, and they hired and do theater companies. They just put people to work basically. And you see, okay, so this is wild, because even at the time, big business and all, they were like, blah blah, government bailout, government involvement, and all of that. But and that's not. The government's not Santa Claus. They can't just give out money. But the logic is that if you are, it's like injecting money into the economy, and that if you get people working, they can build on that.
And that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
That's why they, I don't know. That's why the government should kind of put money in the thing. I hate to say it, but I know they won't.
Well, no, they do. Sometimes they do.
Sometimes
they do.
Yeah.
There was a yeah, they do. Bush did it after 9/11.
Oh, what did he put money into?
He gave everybody got an extra couple $100 on their taxes or something.
Okay, so he made it to where they didn't take as much as they normally do, or
no? It was an infusion. It was a couple $100 to couple $100 on like, I think everybody got like a lot of people got like an extra $200 or something. And if you look at that, so you know, so you look at the entire, so if you look at the entire country, say, okay, if everybody gets an extra $200 and, you know, puts that back into the economy. I mean, that was the idea. Yeah, and supposedly that is how the Trump tax, that's the logic of the Trump, and we talked of the Trump tax cuts, is if people have more of their own money, they spend it.
Well, that's true. That's
yeah.
Logic. Yeah, of course.
No, we have see, you come around now, because last time we had this discussion.
Well, that makes sense. You're gonna come around and spend your own money, but
yeah.
I still think there's, like I said, I still don't agree with, you know, how they're doing it to where they give all the corporations this big tax break and stuff. I still don't agree with that. I agree with what you said about giving people money and it's going to come back, but...
Well, I mean, and again, theoretically...
Actually, what you just said, Trump is actually reaping what he sows. Because he did the little tax thing with Ford and GM. Yeah. And they're still letting people go.
Exactly.
So, I don't see where that worked. It didn't work.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, well, we'll see if they vote for him.
Yeah, well, I think they got him on that situation. They pulled the fast one on him. Because now they don't, you know, so they let people go, hey, we have to let them go. And they're playing that whole little, well, we just had to do it. Yeah. And so now, less jobs. He was toting all this, well, we're going to make America great and have all these jobs, and everybody's losing jobs now, again. So, we'll see. Yeah, but it is, you know, and I know, I mean, of course, the rich people's tax cuts make more difference because they have more money, but the idea about the tax cuts is, if everybody has like an extra $50 or $75 or whatever on each paycheck. So, you know, I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. Mm-hmm. That, you know, that if everybody has that, you know, I mean, because of course it's not like any of us are going to it's not going to make that much difference to any of us. And you can't have a 75% raise. I mean, a $75 raise on your check if you ain't got a job. Well, no, but I mean, for people that are, I mean, supposedly some people say that they are noticing the tax cut. Ooh, I mean, you know, regular people. Wow, Ford and GMC let go like. Ford. No, but no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are still. No, I'm talking about people that are employed. Okay. Now. I didn't notice a difference. Okay, but all right. No, I'm saying that's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the logic. Yeah, I know. Right grants. That's all I can say. That's but I mean that's the logic. And when Franklin Roosevelt was elected, see, it's just fascinating. I mean, there'd been like 12 years of a Republican administration before FDR was elected. Right. Which is crazy. Very true. I don't know, man. But I don't know. I think Trump's going to get reelected. You think so? Mm-hmm. I'm real nervous about it. I don't think so. I think it's gonna. He's still doing his fuck. I mean, the problem is that see, this is why you need to watch Fox News, because it's just all. I mean, I just feel like, okay, we need. You know, besides there are some good reports, but also I just feel like I need to know. I want to know what those people are up to, basically. You know, I mean, I don't want to hear. I want to hear it right from them. I don't trust other people to tell me what they're doing. I like to keep an eye on them myself. Right. I mean, he's still going around like doing his rallies and all of that, and I don't know. I mean, it just with the polls I see, it seems like people are still. The people that liked him still like him. Right. It doesn't seem like he's losing people, and so, you know, we need to try and get people that
new voters. Just I don't see too many. I don't think people are changing their minds. Remarkably, right. I mean, maybe all those people that get laid off will, but yeah, God, that just sucks. Oh my God, I can't stand. God, you're just seeing all these people, all these grown people. I mean, all these people crying. It's like, oh my God, awful.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So, okay. There's right-wingers getting elected all over the place in Europe, but a progressive was just elected in